Hey everyone, how's it going? For today's video, I'm proud to present an up-close and personal, in-depth look at the newly refreshed 2015 Chrysler 300. This is going to be a detailed, in-depth review of the 300. We'll start it up, show the engine, get an exhaust clipping over the performance data, take it on a thorough road test, and show you many of the unique aspects of both the interior as well as exterior. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and start her up. Let her run. Remote start is an available feature on upper trim levels. Standard equipment across the entire 300 lineup is a remote access smart key system, which allows you to lock and unlock the vehicle by just keeping the key fob in your pocket. To lock, just look on the driver and passenger side door handle for the black button, and tap it. The horn will chime and all the doors will lock. Then after waiting a second, go ahead and grab the handle. There's a touch sensor located behind it, and that automatically unlocks the vehicle. This particular example is finished in billet silver metallic with an all-black leather interior and satin metal brightwork found throughout. In addition to the smart key system, the 300 also features standard push-button ignition. So to start the vehicle, just make sure the key fob is within the interior of the vehicle, put your foot on the brake, the gauges, and the button will illuminate, then simply hit it to go. The 2015 300 features electrically assisted speed proportional rack and pinion power steering, routed through an updated 3-spoke multifunction steering wheel. The wheel is wrapped in supple leather and now incorporates substantial grip bolsters up top for a bit of a sportier feeling. The cross-stitching also adds a nice detail. Just like you find throughout the interior, the spokes are also highlighted by genuine satin metal trim. Your multifunction controls, off to the right, correspond to your cruise control, and if equipped, adaptive cruise will be located here. The left-hand side incorporates your hands-free telephone and voice commands, and the driver information controls that show up in the new 7-inch TFT display within the redesigned instrument cluster. The gauges, I believe, are a real focal point of the interior of the 300. Like before, it's still beautifully accented in the blue backlining, but incorporates a little bit more satin metal trim, especially surrounding the cluster, and what looks like making up part of the speedometer and tachometer itself, which is a 3-dimensional design, a little bit of a classic look with a modern touch. So using the directional arrows, you can go up and down to go between the different menus. You have a digital speed readout, vehicle information, right and left allows you to go between the different sub-menus. So vehicle information, you have different status gauges, diagnostic features, continue on down, fuel economy, trip information, audio, messages, if you have any alerts from the vehicle, screen setup, so you can customize it, and back to your speedometer. For 2015, both V6 300s and V8 300s featured Chrysler's TorqueFlite 8-speed electronically controlled automatic gearbox, now routed through a rotary gear selector in the center console. It had an electronic shifter beforehand, or at least for last year's model, and that was alright, but this one definitely is a little bit more convenient. It's a little different. It's being incorporated in some other new Chrysler Group models, namely in the Ram products, and it's very reminiscent of the Jaguar selector, only it doesn't rise up and down out of the center console. It's very simple to use. All you have to do is just put your foot on the brake and twist the wheel to the desired gear selection. This particular 300 Limited does not have the ability to shift it manually by paddles or obviously down here, but what it does have is a low gear selection. So if you push down, rotate over one more time, that's for use when you're going down hills and the like, where you don't need to be accelerating or wearing down your brakes too fast. The selector itself is entirely made of metal. I can only assume that it's aluminum, and has that same satin finish that you find throughout the interior. The sides are also finished in a knurled pattern for a little bit of a grippier surface, and it's very responsive. It's easy to turn, especially if you are in drive and you just need to go into park. Just flick it to the left. It's very quick and kind of eliminates the step of having to push a selector back and forth, especially with my Charger, which is a 2012 model. It still has that gated shifter with that 5-speed automatic. This is far more refined feeling. While not equipped on this tester, a backup camera is available, so when you put it in reverse, it'll automatically come up in the 8.4-inch screen with adaptive guidance lines that automatically turn based on the steering wheel angle. So let's go ahead and flip on the standard projector LED accent and halogen headlamps. Xenons are available on some upper trim levels of the 300. Your hazards are located in the center stack. Both front windows are fully automatic and incorporate laminated glass for improved safety and interior noise isolation. So, let's go ahead and check out the exterior. Upon closing the door, the interior will also chime, letting you know it's lost detection of the proximity key fob. The latest generation Chrysler 300 has been around since 2011, so for the 2015 model year, which coincidentally is the 60th anniversary of the original 300, the entire line receives a mid-cycle refresh. Unlike the Dodge Charger, which also receives a refresh for 2015, changes to the 300 are a lot more subtle. There aren't any alterations in the sheet metal, largely limited to fascias, lighting, and interior upgrades. It's now available in 4 trim levels: entry-level limited like we have here, sporty S model, luxury themed C, and a new range-topping 300C Platinum that incorporates hand-finished wood, diamond-quilted leather, and more. Detailed pricing can be found in the description box below. While the standard drivetrain continues to be rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive is still available, but only on 300s equipped with the V6. Up front, the 300 wears the new face of Chrysler, a large grille with floating wing emblem and black mesh dominating a softer, sculpted front bumper. The LED accented headlamps have been updated, relocating the amber portions to the outer edges of the bumper, just ahead of the wheels. It looks very European and took me some time to get used to. In person, the lamps are really quite pretty, further enhanced by available bifunction HIDs and adaptive forward lighting, which better illuminates curves in the road ahead. The lower clip features an elegantly styled chrome Mobius strip reminiscent to the one seen in the new 200. LED fog lamps are also available. In the rear, the only 2 changes include updated tail lamps, which incorporate 48 LEDs each with circular diffusing elements, and a restyled fascia. The bumper cover follows a more sculpted look like the front, highlighted by chrome trim and a new blacked out lower valance that's said to lighten the 300's appearance from the rear. The elongated polished exhaust tips are integrated within the fascia. I'll admit, I wasn't sure about the refreshed styling when I first saw it, but it did grow on me over time, especially with alternate trim levels and colors. While the 2005 to 2010 models will always have that signature original cool factor, the newer faces are far better products in terms of refinements, road manners, and overall quality. What's even more impressive are the amount of fine details Chrysler instills into the sheet metal. When the newest gen came out, it was a big departure. Sure, the general shape was there, but the styling was far more sculpted, almost to the point where you couldn't truly appreciate it until close examination took place. Looking at the sides, you'll notice the high belt line and fenders, designed to pay homage to 300s of the 1950s. A strong, continuous character line projects out from the flared fenders and flows to the rear before creating a C shape, encircling the rear quarters. This actually somewhat reminds me of a Maybach, which could have its center section finished in a contrasting color. Beginning at the headlamps, another half-inch wide flat strip extends over the fenders before sweeping into the A-pillars. The line then re-emerges in the rear quarters behind the C-pillar, continuing back till they blend in with the tail lamps. Each tail lamp is then angled in a way to form vestigial tail fins. The deck lid is even sculpted with a ducktail spoiler. With upper trim levels, you also get unique styling touches here and there, chrome bits, an available panoramic roof, and more. The S receives more aggressive touches such as blacked out chrome trim, special grills up front, and bolder body components with V8 models. Also new for 2015 are a host of revised available safety features, including Full Speed Forward Collision Warning Plus, which provides autonomous braking in addition to slowing or bringing the car to a stop under certain conditions when a forward collision appears imminent. Available Adaptive Cruise now brings the car to a full stop while maintaining the distance between the car and front. The Lane Departure Warning System with Lane Keep and Assist introduces subtle steering wheel inputs, alerting the driver and providing corrective assistance. Of course, blind spot monitoring, parking sensors, and rear cross traffic alert are also available. For the 2015 300 lineup, there's 7 new wheel styles ranging from 17 to 20 inches in diameter. The entry-level Limited carries these 17 by 7 inch silver-painted alloys as standard equipment. The increased diameter wheels also are wider for added grip in the corners. When equipped with the 17-inch wheels, you get two 1565 low rolling resistance all-season Michelin tires, able to hold around 0.78 g of lateral acceleration. There's 2 braking packages, Touring and Sport. Sport has larger diameter front and rear ventilated rotors and beefier calipers. The Limited naturally comes with a Touring setup consisting of 12.6 by 1.1 inch ventilated discs up front and 12.6 by 0.4 inch solid discs in the rear with single piston calipers at each corner. This setup is able to bring the car to a stop in about 118 feet. As far as the suspension, all 300s feature front and rear stabilizer bars, as well as an independent double wishbone coilover setup in front and a 5-link design in the rear with isolated suspension cradle and new cast aluminum front and rear axles. There's 4 levels of suspension tuning: Comfort, standard on the Limited, Touring, all-wheel drive Touring, and a Sport tune setup for the 300S. Overall length is 198.6 inches with a width of 75 inches and a height of 58.4 inches, running on a 120.2 inch wheelbase. Total curb weight for the V6 rear-wheel drive as shown here is around 4,029 pounds. The 300 comes standard with Chrysler's 3.6-liter Pentastar V6. It's an all-aluminum 60-degree engine with double overhead cams, 4 valves per cylinder, a 10.2-to-1 compression ratio, and a redline of 6,400 RPM. In its basic form, it produces a healthy 292 horsepower, 6,350 RPM, and 260 pound-feet of torque at 4,800 RPM. 0 to 60 times are estimated to be around 6.6 seconds, while the top speed is limited to 115 miles an hour. On the road, it does feel quite responsive. While the V8 packs serious grunt on the open road, around town you almost don't even notice a difference. If you're looking to save fuel without sacrificing power, the V6 is a great all-around engine with stellar fuel economy. In the 300S equipped with the V6, it's actually tuned to deliver an even 300 horsepower and 264 pound-feet of torque. Equipped with the 5.7-liter Hemi V8, the 300 churns out 363 horsepower and 394 pound-feet of torque. As far as fuel economy, the 300 carries an 18.5-gallon fuel tank and runs on regular 87 octane. EPA estimates range between 19 miles to a gallon in the city and 31 on the highway for rear-wheel drive models. All-wheel drive drops it to 18 and 27 respectively. For 2015, the interior receives a few refreshed touches to evolve it alongside the Charger. There's still a number of components shared between them, like the door panels and center console, but the Chrysler differs itself primarily with the unique dash design. It's not necessarily a bad thing, as overall build quality is first rate in my opinion for the class. It feels solid and well crafted. I believe it's even notably quieter than the Charger. Since the 300 leans more towards luxury, it makes sense, especially since the interior is toned down quite a bit from the Charger's aggressive muscle car theme. There's even the added touch of higher quality and more modern materials, including a stitched cover for the instrument cluster, genuine satin metal replacing the Charger's mirror quality chrome, and faux wood trim in the base models. Genuine wood is available in upper trim levels, especially in the 300C Platinum, while the S gets unique Charger-inspired aluminum trim. The standard seats feature 8-way power adjustment and 4-way power lumbar for both the driver and passenger. Leather is standard, as is heated front seats. They're definitely pretty comfortable. They don't offer quite as much lateral support as the more heavily side-bolstered seats in the 300S, but I didn't find fault with them at all, especially on longer trips. They're quite enjoyable. I also really like how both the Charger and 300 incorporate the vehicle's logo stitched into the floor mats in addition to the all-weather portion. A manual tilting telescoping steering wheel is standard, but a power heated unit is also available. Standard driver's side knee airbag, optional power pedals, and the padded dash. On the left, you have the controls for the interior illumination as well as ambient lighting, and you can also opt for a full panoramic sunroof. Ambient lighting is found throughout, namely in the door handles and center stack.
So let's go ahead and see how she sounds. So let's go ahead and shut her up. Nice solid panels.
Many of you long-term subscribers are probably aware that my daily driver is a 2012 Charger RT Max. And it's interesting because I've actually never driven one of these newer 300s. I've driven a lot of the first generation, or at least the ones from the mid-2000s, but I've never driven one of these and never had the opportunity. So when I heard I was going to get a 300 press loaner for the week, especially the 2015, I was pretty excited to be expected. But this Limited is essentially the base trim, which I was pretty surprised. I knew it wasn't a C when I first saw it. Typically, press vehicles are more of the loaded spec, so I thought this offered a pretty unique opportunity to be able to actually see what the base model is, because, I mean, obviously I don't typically film the base models because I like to show all the gizmos and gadgets and all that stuff, and I've actually never driven a V6 300. I've always filmed the V8s. Obviously my Charger is a V8. I like V8s, so I really wanted to be able to experience the Pentastar firsthand, see what it was like, taking a trip back up to my hometown right now to really see how it's like on an open stretch of road. And it's just, overall, I've really enjoyed my time with it. I got a few days left. We're about to get a winter storm in, so let's talk about how the new 300 drives before the weather bottoms out. I was really glad I was able to make this video for two reasons. One, I really wanted to highlight how far Chrysler Group has come in the last few years, especially since the new product onslaught started just rolling out since 2011, a couple of years or so after Fiat partnered with them. I mean, the products that they offer are just phenomenal. I mean, past reliability, all that kind of stuff, I mean, just completely toss it out the window with these new vehicles. The build quality is amazing. They have updated modern transmissions, modern engines. They're efficient, and they offer a lot of bang for your buck in their respective segments. Mainly talking about the Charger and 300, I mean, the 300, standard leather, standard heated seats, standard dual zone climate control. I mean, it's just a really nice vehicle, even in this base trim. You know what this vehicle actually reminds me a lot of, and a lot of you probably don't know this, but one of my first cars was a 2000 Chrysler 300M. It was built on that LH platform series from like the late 90s, and it was produced from 99 to 04. It was a front wheel drive V6, 4-speed automatic with auto stick manual shifting, and it was a good car. I loved it. I mean, I had it through high school and whatnot, and ended up selling it for something else a little later. But this car, this 300, reminds me a lot of that car, and I'll tell you why. My 300 was as loaded as it got for the day. It had heated seats, it had the Infinity audio system, and it had the, I mean, it was very, very fancy looking. I felt really, really special driving it. And this one, even though it's not as loaded to the gills as my Charger or a 300C, it kind of gives me that same feeling. It takes me back a little bit to when a car can be somewhat loaded, but still very simple. I mean, the Uconnect system is the most complicated piece in this vehicle, and it's really not complicated if you've seen my past reviews where I highlighted it more in depth. I mean, sure, this doesn't have cooled seats, it doesn't have memory seats or a heated steering wheel, but it's covered in premium materials. The speedometer cluster is out of stitched material. You have the faux wood everywhere that kind of has like a dark ashy looking color to it. It's really pretty. And everywhere you look, there's this satin metal trim. I mean, the cabin is very well appointed, and it's nice. You have the analog clock up there, just like my old 300 did. So in a lot of ways, it's very similar in terms of just the feel of it, the enjoyment of it being simple, yet being comfortable, and just the right amount of features without breaking the bank. I mean, there's plenty of cars out there in the segment. There's plenty of more expensive cars in the segment that don't offer the type of equipment that this one does as standard. So it's really interesting. But this one is a whole lot better in a lot of aspects, and one of the reasons being that it's rear-wheel drive. So you don't have front-wheel torque steer or wheel hop that plagued my 300. You get relatively sporty driving characteristics. I'll always prefer a rear-wheel drive vehicle over anything else just because I like the way they drive, but I mean, the 300 is also available in all-wheel drive, so if you live in a area prone to inclement weather, you can do that, and it'll probably add to a little bit of performance as well with added traction to the ground. But the first thing that you'll notice when driving, at least the 300 versus the Charger, we do a little bit of comparison now. The 300, even though I'm comparing the V6 to the V8, I think it's substantial enough of a difference to make mention. The ride quality and the way this vehicle drives is not at all like the Charger. They are not the same vehicles. They are built on the same platform. They share many of the interior components, all of the electronic features, and the way everything works is pretty much identical to each other. The styling is extremely different. There's a lot of subtle details that you won't find in the Charger, and I'll talk about that a little later when we're talking about the styling. But just the way this vehicle feels, the steering is a lot lighter. It's still electrically assisted, so you get that extra benefit and stuff, but my Charger is very firm to steer when compared to this. It feels like you gotta muscle it just a little bit more. It's just a tighter steering feel. I prefer the tighter steering feel. This one is a lot more relaxed, and that goes along with the suspension. For 2015, the 300 actually has lighter front and rear axles, which I doubt that translates to improved ride quality at all, but compared to the Charger, this is a whole lot smoother. It's probably because of the wheels on this. This vehicle has 17-inch wheels, where mine has 20-inch wheels. Even though the suspension is on the softer side, it still holds its own in the corners. I mean, it's not unlike the Charger, it's just not as tight or sporty of a vehicle at all, and you'll notice the difference if you compare them. They're basically apples to oranges as far as the ride quality is concerned. And that's a good thing for a lot of people, because the Charger, I've read other people, other reviews of it, and people have complained about the stiffer ride quality. I prefer the stiffer ride quality. You can feel a lot more on the road, and it's a little bit more dynamic. But if you're wanting a softer, smoother vehicle, then the 300 is perfect, because, I mean, it floats over the highway, not like a typical American classic or like giant boat car would float, but it's very predictable, it's very controlled. It just soaks up the bumps very well. I'm driving about 70 miles an hour, And over this road, I've traveled with the Charger multiple times, and it's almost like driving on a new road. It's just, it's very smooth. I like it a lot. The thing I wanted to elaborate more on is the gearbox. So last year's 300, for those of you familiar with the lineup, had an 8-speed automatic. It was through a different electronic gear selector that was kind of cool. It was like a pistol grip type electronic shifter, but Chrysler's moved to this new rotary dial like they've done with some of the other brands and product lines. But it's also the first time I've driven a Chrysler with an 8-speed automatic. And just comparing based on the old clunky 5-speed that's in my Charger, this is awesome. I wish it had manual shiftability. The base model doesn't, but you can opt for a set of aluminum paddle shifters behind the steering wheel on some of the upper trim levels. So that adds a little bit more dynamism, and there's like a optional sport mode and that increases or decreases shifting times and firms things up a bit. So you can definitely get quite sporty and dynamic with the 300 when properly equipped. But in the time or the week that I've had this vehicle so far, the fuel economy has just been phenomenal. I mean, the 8-speed, I'm at 70 miles an hour cruising in 8th, and you can't hear the engine or driveline or anything. The revs drop down pretty low, and that's the benefit of having an 8-speed automatic, which is essentially 2 overdrive gears on top of a 6-speed automatic. It just drops the revs down and adds towards fuel economy, so that's a good thing. And I'm really looking forward. I hope I get one this year, to a Charger V8 that has the new 8-speed automatic, because I really want to compare it to the one in mine, because I know it's going to be hard driving that and then going back to mine. The gear changes are pretty smooth overall too. I mean, you still feel them in the lower gears, especially like when starting out. It's not the quickest shifting transmission ever. That leaves some room for the faster shifting times and the sport modes of the other models, like I said earlier. But especially when you're going into the higher gears, 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on, you almost can't even tell that the vehicle is shifting. I mean, downshifting from 8th, 7th, I mean, it's very smooth. So it's a relaxed transmission. It's not geared for sportiness or anything like that, but it does its job very well, and it's far more refined feeling and shifting than that previous 5-speed automatic of a few years ago.
There's 4 different audio systems available. This base 6-speaker setup actually provides an impressive level of quality for the average listener. The next step up are 6 premium speakers of the 276-watt digital amplifier. Above that is the 552-watt 10-speaker Beats audio group, with the highest being a 19-speaker 900-watt Harman Kardon surround sound system. The 8.4-inch Uconnect infotainment system comes as standard equipment, as does satellite radio and Bluetooth technology. Equipped on our tester is an upgraded version that includes navigation and a few extra goodies like SiriusXM Travel Link, traffic, and more. In my opinion, Uconnect is one of the easiest systems to use on the market. It's responsive, it's nicely organized, and is flexible with multiple different types of media devices. It can also act as a Wi-Fi hotspot, which is pretty cool. I've gone more in depth in previous Chrysler Group reviews of the Uconnect system, so if you want to see how it works a little bit more in depth, see the links provided in the description box below. Cloth-wrapped A-pillars, grip handles up top, and soft padded visors, with illuminated vanity mirrors. Not to mention, an auxiliary sunshade comes out to the right. Auto-dimming rearview mirror with roadside and 911 assistance. In the chrome accented top stack, you have your interior illumination, and LED reading lamps, LED lighting that casts a glow onto the center console, padded sunglass container, and you also have the option for garage home link. As many people probably know already, many of the interior features, ergonomics, and electronics, including placement of those controls, are very similar to the Charger. Of course, everything's styled just a little bit differently to give the 300 a bit of a softer, more luxurious touch. As your eyes begin to flow down the center console, take a closer look. You see this raised portion in the middle of the dash right here? That's actually meant
to somewhat continue that dip in the hood right there. So if you look closely, the lines meet up. Not only that, but they also act like they cradle the center screen. I just love little special details like that. Right above the screen is an elegant analog clock. Its shape is reminiscent to the grille up front. Right beneath the screen you have your basic controls, back button for the system, tune, browse, enter, as well as your volume and power. Traction control is located here next to your hazard switch, and you can put it into a sport mode, so if you wanted to have a little bit more of spirited driving and less innervation from the car's stability systems. Once activated, it shows up in the TFT display. And as with all Chargers and 300s, they come standard with dual zone electronic automatic climate control. So fan speed in the middle, automatic, AC and recycling, temperature, front and rear defrost. These are just your basic controls. If you want to go more in depth, including changing the zones, you have to go to the Uconnect screen. Coming across the center console, the soft dash padding also comes to about right here where it meets with the cup holders. You have a small storage cubby, lined in felt with a 12-volt power outlet, another storage tray. Pull back the little cover and you have two illuminated cup holders that could also be had heating and cooling in certain trim levels. All the way in the back you have a soft padded armrest with removable tray, chain storage, and your other media inputs, SD, USB, and auxiliary. It's also a pretty deep well, LED lit, with an extra 12-volt power outlet. As far as the steering wheel, like we briefly touched on earlier, the right-hand side houses your cruise control. Adaptive cruise will be located down here if equipped. Driver information system here, hands-free telephone, and voice commands. Help.
You can interrupt this help message and give a command by pressing the voice button on the steering wheel. To change the temperature, say things like set temperature to 73 degrees or set driver temperature to 73 degrees. To make phone calls, press the phone pickup button and say something like, "Call John Smith, work." For help on how to use the voice command system, say, "Voice tutorial."
Cancel.
Cancelled.
The voice definitely isn't the most refined sounding, but it offers a lot of flexibility in controlling many of these features, so you can make sure to keep your eyes on the road. Intermittent wipers are on the left-hand side. Automatic wipers are also available. And in typical Chrysler Group fashion, the back of the steering wheel, perfectly placed for your hands, are your radio controls. The right-hand side houses your volume, as well as changing between the different sources. The left-hand side goes between your different presets and manually going through like radio stations or Sirius XM stations. And in the bottom, like you saw earlier, your lighting controls, trunk release, interior lighting dimmer, as well as ambient lighting dimmer. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and shut her down. And we'll check out the back seat. Just like the Charger, the 300 boasts a roomy and comfortable back seat for taking passengers on longer trips. And just like you would find in the front, pretty much every surface is finished in soft touch material, or at least the essential touch points in the upper half of the door panels. The satin metal brightwork, lower storage. On some upper trim levels of the 300, the middle portion of the padded material might differ with some fancier appointments, in the addition to the option of having two-stage heated rear seats. Along with the front, when you have that package, you also get the perforated leather. There are storage pockets on the back of the seats, in addition to two USB ports versus the 12-volt outlet that was there previously. Also, if equipped with the heated seat option, the controls will be within that stack. So now, let's go ahead and hop on the other side and check out the interior space. For the 300, climbing into the back seat is a little bit easier than it is in the Charger because of this more formal roofline. It's a bit more squared off right here than the fastback style of the Charger, which allows a little bit more room, and you can definitely notice. Just like the front, Back doors have that nice solid feel, and overall it's a very comfortable back seat. Just like my Charger, it's one of the reasons why I like it. I mean, you can definitely carry 4 passengers in this car very comfortably. You can sit a third person right here for a total of 5, but unless they're a child or someone who's just willing to straddle this big drivetrain hump right here, it's not necessarily the most comfortable seat. Like I said, you can get 2-stage heated seats for the back for each of the outboard seats. It's also very comfy. The bottom cushion kind of sits you down like a bucket seat, and you have good lateral support across the sides, excellent lower back support, and a little bit of lateral support. So it holds you pretty well. In the middle, you have a fold-down padded armrest with hidden storage, 2 cup holders that are also illuminated at night. While these headrests in the back are fixed, you do have an adjustable headrest in the middle right here that you can put down for better visibility when not in use. As far as overall interior space, I'm 5'10". With a comfortable seating position for myself up front, I probably have, I'd say, 5 inches or so of leg space and maybe an 1.5 inches or so of head space. Of course, you have side curtain airbags all the way around, padding on all of the pillars, grip handles up top with coat hooks and illumination. The USB ports are definitely going to be more convenient with tablets, smartphones, and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely a nice upgrade. I like that a lot. But overall, pretty simple. Well equipped even in this limited trim with just nowhere to go but up. So, let's go and check out the rest of the vehicle.
Both the 300 and Charger have 16.3 cubic feet of cargo space out back. It's pretty decent overall, not huge, but enough to swallow up a pretty good amount of cargo. You have a storage net in the back, cargo tie-downs, and plenty of illumination. And for extra space, you can even fold down the rear seats to load up cargo all the way up to the front.
The passenger seat also features the same power adjustments, including the 4-way power lumbar that you find on the driver's seat. Down below, you do have a locking glove box that can encompass a pretty good amount of space. It's a 2-tier design, so you have a split level pocket up there. It's all illuminated and lined in soft touch material.
The Charger and 300 offer a lot when it comes to standard features, style, and performance. They're not your typical family sedans, each having a specific demographic. With excellent build quality, roomy and comfortable interiors, and top-shelf technology, I highly suggest if you're looking for a car in this segment to place these high up on your list of things to consider.
Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at the recently refreshed 2015 Chrysler 300. Be sure to stay tuned next time. There's a lot more where that came from. Take care everybody.